Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and if you're new here, let me tell you what this is. This is a podcast where we talk about entrepreneurship, identity, and building a life that actually feels like yours. No filter, no highlight reel. This is just a real conversation. And yes, I am based in the non-alc industry, so we talk a lot about non-alcoholic options and lifestyles, but a lot of what we talk about can apply to so many different people. Today's topic is one I've been sitting with for a little while, probably since around 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, if I'm being very specific, because that's when the big thoughts are happening for me now. And if you know me, I've never been a night person. I never used to lose sleep, but being a mom makes things different. So today's episode, we are talking about motherhood and entrepreneurship. And more specifically, we're going to talk about the very loud and persistent lie, that you have to choose between them. Because I'm in it right now, in it. New baby, new season, new version of myself that I'm getting acquainted with, and I'm still building, I'm still creating, I'm still showing up here. And I want to spend today talking about why I don't just think that's possible, I think that it's necessary. So if you listened to the last episode 101, first of all, thank you. That episode was a long time coming. That was after my return after several months away, and it was also the first episode that I recorded as a mom. And I talked about multi-passionate entrepreneurship and the evolution of identity and what it means to hold more than one version of yourself at the same time. And something happened after I put that episode out. I got messages, and I got a lot of them from women who are in it too, who are trying to build something while also being someone's mom, someone's partner, someone's everything. And the thing I kept hearing over and over was some version of, I needed to hear this. I thought I was the only one. This is so me. Well, you're not the only one. And that's exactly why I'm back here this week. Because episode 101 cracked something open for me. It reminded me why this show exists, and it pointed me directly towards this conversation, the one about how we actually build something sustainable when our lives look like nothing like the productivity gurus who told us how to do it. The ones who, let's be honest, were probably not also waking up every 2 hours to feed a newborn. I want to talk about what motherhood has taught me about entrepreneurship. Not in a saccharine, everything is a gift kind of way, but in a real, concrete, sometimes uncomfortable way. Because becoming a mom has genuinely changed how I think about my work. And I think those lessons are for all of us, whether you're a mom or not, whether you're thinking about it or nowhere near it. Because this is really about what happens when life forces you to get ruthlessly clear about what matters. Let me start with something I want to say out loud because I think it needs to be said. There is a version of this podcast episode that I could record that goes something like this. Motherhood made me more productive. Having less time made me laser focused. Here are my 5 morning routine hacks. But I'm not recording that episode because that is not my experience, and I don't think it's yours either. Here's what actually happened when I had my baby. My capacity changed. Not just my schedule, my capacity. The amount of cognitive and emotional bandwidth I have available at any given time is genuinely different now. And I had to grieve that a little. The version of me who could sit down and work for 4 uninterrupted hours and then go do something else and then come back and do it again, that version of me is operating differently now. I mean, she's still here, but she works in windows. She works in the margins. She works in the 20 minutes while the baby naps and the dinner is in the oven, or when she has exactly enough energy for one good idea. And what I've had to learn, slowly, imperfectly, is how to make that enough. How to build something real in the margins. How to stop waiting for the long stretches and respecting the short ones. What I really didn't expect is that working in the margins actually did make me and has made me better at identifying what actually matters. Because when you only have 20 minutes, you cannot spend 12 of them doing busy work. You cannot reorganize your Notion database for the 5th time. You cannot overthink the caption for a post that isn't even written yet. You have to go straight to the thing that moves the needle. I would never ever say that motherhood stole my ambition. I think that is a common misconception, but it did clarify it. It showed me exactly which parts of my work I was doing out of fear. Fear of falling behind, or fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough, and which parts I was doing because they actually matter, because they actually work, because they actually build something. And that clarity is one of the most valuable things I've ever gotten from anything. Now, I want to talk about the myth of the perfect time, because I've heard it and I have said it so many times. I'll launch when the baby's sleeping better, or I'll start that course when things slow down, or I'll build that offer when I have more bandwidth. And look, I understand the impulse completely, because your nervous system is not wrong when it says that you are maxed out. You are maxed out. That's real. I'm not here to tell you to hustle through exhaustion or grind through the newborn fog. That is not what I'm saying. And in fact, definitely the opposite. You should be bonding and spending time with your newborn, and that should be your main priority. Everything else falls to the wayside, even if you are the primary income earner in your household, right? Here's what I'm actually trying to say. The perfect time is not coming. Not because things won't get easier, because they will eventually in some ways, but because there will always be a reason to wait. There will always be a next thing that feels like you should clear it off of your to-do list before you start. And if you keep waiting for permission from your circumstances, you will wait for absolutely ever, right? If it wasn't motherhood, it would be something else. The women in general that I watch build the most sustainably do not wait for a clear runway. They build the plane while they're in the middle of everything else. Not perfectly, not quickly, but consistently. They take the small window and they use it. They protect that 1 hour or that 20 minutes like it's sacred, because it is. And here's what I've learned about building in a constrained season, right? Constraints, they are not your enemy of creativity. They are forcing function. Like when you have unlimited time and unlimited options, you tend to spin out. But when you only have 20 minutes and one clear goal, you execute. I have made more meaningful progress in the margins of new motherhood than I did in some of our most open seasons of my adult life, but also like this business's life in general. And I don't say that to perform resilience. I say it because it's true, and I think that you need to hear that that's possible. Now, I want to talk specifically about how becoming a mom changed the way I think about my work. And I mean both my bar work and the podcast, right? Like the brand, the whole ecosystem, everything that we've been building. In the bar world, I think a lot about recipes, ratios, about the fact that a great drink is not on accident, it's a system. Then there's people behind it. There are objects behind it. There's a whole equation, a whole dance, a whole orchestra behind making an experience memorable and delicious, right? You figure out what works. You document it, you scale it, and then you can reproduce it consistently without being in the room for every single pour. And that's what makes a great bar program sustainable. It's not the bartender being brilliant every single night. That is exhausting. It's the systems that they build that work even when they're not at their best. Becoming a mom made me realize I need to do the same thing in our business. I needed my work to be able to function, to keep reaching people, to keep building relationships, to keep generating income, even when I wasn't available to pour every single drink myself. And that realization changed everything about how I was thinking about this podcast. Because the thing is, I've been podcasting for a while, years. And for a long time, I thought about it primarily as a creative outlet and a place for real conversations, a place where people get started, people get to know me, and then from there, they jump into other parts of our funnels in order to learn more about how they can work with me and with us. And to a certain extent, that's always going to be true. That's never going to change. But what I hadn't fully built was a little bit of an additional infrastructure, the way the show connects directly to how I can help you. So the way that the listener who resonates with what I'm saying can actually take a next step with our company, not just in general, can actually go deeper and can actually work with me in a meaningful way. A podcast without a pathway is like a bar without a menu. People show up, they enjoy the vibe, and then they leave, which is fine, but that's not a business. And I needed a business that could keep running even on the days that I was up all night, even on the days my brain was running on 45 minutes of sleep and a prayer. So I've been building that pathway, knowing that this season was coming. And what I discovered is that you don't need sales calls to do it. You don't need to be in someone's sales inbox every day. You don't need to be attending every single networking event. You don't need to hustle in a way that a new mom or any human with a full life cannot sustain. You just need your podcast to be doing the work that it's capable of doing. So I want to talk to you for a few minutes about the podcast as a business tool, because I think that there's a version of this that a lot of us are leaving on the table. And I know that it's not that I was, because I have used this podcast as a funnel, but I wasn't using it as intentionally as I am now. And I want to get so clear on what this formula is, because for the entirety of my pregnancy, I didn't have to sit on a sales call. I didn't have to do a lot of work to onboard people. And it has really made this postpartum period absolutely blissful. And it's allowed for momentum to actually build in a way that for other people may have felt more stuck in the trenches. So here's what a podcast actually is when it's working. It's a long-form trust-building machine. Every episode is a conversation where someone gets to sit with you for 20, 30, 45 minutes. They hear how you think. They hear what you care about. They start to feel like they know you. And by the time they're a few episodes in, the trust factor is through the roof in a way that no Instagram post, no cold email, no discovery call could ever replicate. This is an enormous asset. And most of us, myself included, for a long time, are not fully using it. Because here's what happens, right? We put out great content. We build real relationships with our audience. And then we either don't have an offer, or we have an offer, but we're scared to talk about it. Or we talk about it so infrequently and so apologetically that people miss it entirely. And then we wonder why the podcast isn't converting. But it's not usually the podcast that's broken. It's the pathway from the podcast to the next step. A podcast that works as a business tool is one where every episode has intention, where the content is genuinely serving your listener and pointing towards a transformation that you can offer them, where the call to action feels like a natural next step, not a pivot into sales mode, where someone can listen to maybe 5 episodes and know exactly what you do, who you do it for, and how to work with you without you ever having to get on a sales call or attend some sort of networking event. This is a completely different model than what most of us were taught. And it's the model that I have been working so hard on over the past few years. And the reason that I'm talking about it today, episode 102, is because I built it specifically for this season of life. I built it because I had to. My husband and I always knew that we wanted to build out our family, that we wouldn't be going balls to the wall hard on our business all the time. We knew we needed space. And up to this point, this podcast has generated over $100,000 and counting, because we set it up that way, and now we're doubling down on the episode structures that we noticed that worked the best versus the ones that may not have converted as intentionally or as abundantly as we had hoped. So all of this experience was motivated because I became a mom, right? I realized early that I needed my work to have leverage. I needed the show to be doing the work even when I couldn't. And now, after all of these episodes and years worth of experience of knowing what works and what doesn't, I want to help you build that too. And side note, you could be in any industry. You could be selling anything. You could be selling products. You could be selling services. Anything. And this works. So I want to tell you about something that I've put together because I think it's going to be genuinely and generally very useful for a lot of you. It's called Profitable Podcasting Without Sales Calls. And the name is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. This is a very short, quick, right to the point program that I built for people who already have a podcast or who want to build one and who want it to actually generate income, but not through sponsors and not through merchandise, right? Like not through a model that requires you to have 1 million downloads before anything happens, but instead through a strategic ecosystem where your show does the heavy lifting, where your listeners move through a journey that ends with them genuinely wanting to work with you, and where you never have to get on a sales call to make it happen. And again, I want to emphasize this so much. When I started this podcast, I had less than 100 Instagram followers. Truly. I did leverage having some interviews to build my audience quicker. I did leverage a $5 a day podcast ad. And to get to that first 100,000 with this podcast specifically, we had less than 5,000 downloads. Like, again, and at this point, as of this recording, right, this is my 3rd year of doing this podcast. And at this point, I've got a little over 6,000 followers. And at this point, again, we're still under 10,000 downloads, but this podcast has brought in enough business in order for us to sustain our entire family, right? That's pretty powerful. And I want you to know that this is possible for you too. I built this because I needed it. We needed it. I needed a way to make this show work for my life as a new mom. I needed something that could keep running on the days that I was running on empty. And I've put everything I know into it. The strategy, the setup, the framework for making your episodes do the work that you've been hoping that they would do. So again, this is called Profitable Podcasting Without Sales Calls. What I'm talking about, you can take a look at the episode summary or episode description, and you'll see a link for this program to learn more in depth. Because the kind of strategy and setup that's possible that I outline in this program would normally conservatively cost you anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 if you were trying to piece it together on your own. And by the way, I came up with that $3,000 to $5,000 because you may pay someone else to learn or set up certain things for you. Trial and error, your time. But I've packaged this nicely in a bow for only $397 as of the time of recording this podcast. It may increase in the future. I cannot guarantee the price, but as of right now, it's only $397 because I built it for real people with real businesses and real lives, not for people who have unlimited time and budget to figure it out slowly. If you've been podcasting and wondering why it's not converting, this is why, and this is the fix. So if you're about to start a podcast and you want to build it right from the beginning, this is the blueprint. And if you're a mom or someone in a very full season of life who needs his or her work to work without having you be like being available around the clock, this was made for you. Because again, people can listen to podcasts anytime, anywhere, and not have to even interact with you in a way that is in the moment, right? This is an asynchronous way to make a difference in the world. So the link is in the episode description, but you can also Just type into your browser the modernmocktail.thrivecart.com/profitable-podcasting. Again, the link is in the show notes. Go ahead and check it out. Before I close out today, I do want to spend a few minutes on the practical stuff because I can tell when a podcast has been all philosophy and no takeaway, and I never want that for you. So here's what's actually working for me right now in this season as someone who is building a business while also being a new mom. And by the way, I continue to call new business until you've hit year 5. I have helped and created multiple businesses, and to me, you're not really in the flow of everything until year 5. So we're in year 3, but that's besides the point. The first thing is protecting your non-negotiables. For me, this podcast is a non-negotiable because not because every episode is perfect, right? Not because I always feel ready, but because this is the thing that connects everything else. This is where I build trust with you. This is where the pathway starts. So even when I'm tired, even when my schedule is chaotic, this is the one thing I protect. The second thing is designing for asynchronous income. This was the big shift for me. I cannot be available for sales calls at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday anymore. So I needed to build something where the selling happens without me being in the room. The program I just told you about is part of that. It exists so that someone can find this podcast, binge a few episodes, click the link in the show notes, and become a customer, all without me doing anything in real time. That is sustainable. That is leverage. The third thing is giving yourself permission to do less, but do better. I used to think that the answer to building a bigger audience was more content, more posts, more episodes, more touch points. And what I've actually learned is that the answer is more intentional content. One episode that is deeply relevant and ends with a clear next step is worth 10 episodes that are good but go nowhere. And the fourth thing, and I mean this for every person listening, mom or not, is to stop apologizing for building. You are allowed to have ambition and a family. You are allowed to want financial success and to be present for your kids. You are allowed to build something that generates income while you're sleeping. That is not greedy. That is not unattainable, okay? It's smart. It's what sustainability actually looks like. So, this was episode 102. I started this show because I believed, and I still believe, that women and entrepreneurs in general that are building things deserve a space that actually reflects the fullness and the complexity of that. No highlight reels, no perfect stories, but a real one. And I'm back here today as someone who is building in the margins, who is figuring it out in real time, who has more clarity than ever about what matters and less patience than ever before for things that don't. If you're a mom who is also an entrepreneur, you can have it all. Not all at once, not perfectly, not without cost, but you can have a life that holds both the baby and the business and doesn't require you to sacrifice one for the other. I believe that with everything I have, and I am building proof of it right here. If you are not a mom, but you are in a full, demanding, beautiful season of your life that is making you question whether there's room for your ambition too, there is. Build the system. Make the work for you. Stop waiting for a clear runway and start building in the margins. And if your podcast has been your best kept secret, if you've been pouring yourself into it and not seeing it convert, please go check out the Profitable Podcasting Without Sales Calls. Again, the link is in the show notes. It is the thing I wish I had built and figured out sooner, and I genuinely think it's going to change how you see what you've already built. Okay, before I let you go, I have 2 last things for you. If this episode resonated with you, if any part of it made you feel seen or gave you something to think about or made you feel a little less alone in this beautiful chaos, please leave a review. Whether you're listening or wherever you're listening, it takes 30 seconds and it means more than I'll probably say out loud. And follow along if you're not already, because this show is back and I have so much more I want to talk about. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for building. Thank you for not giving up on your dreams just because your life got complicated. I'm Marina. This is Mocktails with Marina. And as always, if you need anything, just let me know.